You're listening to the Shipyard Cat Podcast, the unofficial SAFC podcast for fans everywhere.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of the pod. It's yours truly, Adam, back at the helm of hosting the pod. We're going to be talking today about that 1-0 loss down at Fulham. We've got a lot to cover. We've got a fair few rants within this one, so everybody just brace yourselves. But to join me to have these rants and also making sure I am on the straight now and I'm saying the right things, joined by Kev and I'm joined by Robin. Robin, firstly, how are you today, mate?
Yeah, I'm all right, mate. But it's just when we were going on about refs and ranting and stuff like that, it's just reminding me, actually, you're meant to be serving a suspension from the pod for your outlandish behaviour of wearing a Christmas jumper in November. So, yeah,
Swings and roundabouts.
you sneaked back in on that one. I think me and Kevin were going to have words for you.
Speaking of Kev, how are you, mate?
Yeah, I'm good. Other than disappointed in you for brandishing Christmas attire in, November. It's almost as bad as the radio stations playing it, this time of year. Far too early.
In my defence, it was my daughter's decision. But if you look closely at that said Christmas jumper, it did have Sunderland on it. So we've got to let me off somewhere down the line there. But no, lads,
We'll give you that one.
Let's get into the nitty-gritty straight away. A dire 1-0 result. Chances here and there came in thereabouts. My first thing I want to cover off straight away, referee decisions once again causing us problems and not for the better. Where do we start with these referee decisions in this game? Kev, Robin, whoever wants to go first, hammer it out and then we'll just all blow it up.
Well, where do we start? Yeah. It goes back to that thing of it's hard for the promoted teams because they never get any decisions from the referees. You've seen this over and over throughout the last few seasons and stuff. And I mean, the teams that have come up have gone straight back down. Obviously, we are hoping to be the exception. We're not safe yet, but we're looking pretty good. But it just seems that these referees just don't seem to have a level playing field. I mean, the most ridiculous decision was the Batty push on Isidore. I mean, he's running at full speed. He's beating him to the ball, and Batty just pushes him over. And I mean, you can see, and surely from the referee's line of vision, he sees his arm extended and his hand on his back. You can see that there's a push there, and like you say, at that speed, you're going to go down. You can't stay on your feet.
Mm-hmm.
And it just seems that how he didn't give that. I mean, yeah, was it a clear and obvious goal scoring opportunity? To me, yeah, it was, because he was beating him to the ball and he was closing in on the box. It's one of those that if it had been in the box, VAR could have intervened.
Yeah.
But because it's outside of the box, they're not meant to re-referee the game. But it's just atrocious. I mean, the so-called foul that he gave against us, which led to their goal, I mean, it's just baffling.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to go on a massive ref rant, but then you look at some of the other games throughout the weekend, and I mean, Phil Foden, I know it's not Sunderland, but how on earth that wasn't a penalty and a red card? I don't know, because if that's anywhere else on the pitch, he's getting sent off for that. And it just seems to be that, because he got his shot away, they're not giving the foul, and I think it's absolutely ridiculous. It's that thing of where it is on the pitch. I think if that push on Wilson had been in our own half, or if there'd been a covering defender, I think he would have got that. But I think the referee didn't want to make the decision of having to send him off.
Mm-hmm.
Because that would have been the thing. And I do think that these referees at times, I mean, the Fulham players were going down, all the time. Yeah, horrendous weather conditions, I get that. But like minimal, if any contact at all, and they're falling on the floor, and he's giving them absolutely everything. And yet our players are getting assaulted and there's nothing. You know, I mean, I'm going to let Kev talk about Jimenez and his antics. So, yeah, look, it's just one of those things. I just don't want that referee to be refereeing us again this season.
Yeah, I mean, we're never going to be lucky enough to, have a referee, I don't know, disqualified from refereeing against us. But that is certainly how that felt. It felt like he was refereeing against us rather than the match for us.
Yeah.
There was a couple of things I didn't agree with. Like you just said, Robin, the tackle Calvin Bassey, where he's shoved Isidore out the way. Look, I'm all for physicality. Give as good as you get. Ballard's good for it. Mukiele's good for it. But I just felt like you said, Robin, anywhere else on the pitch, probably any other teams in the league apart from us, Burnley or Leeds, and that's given us a foul. But because it's the newly promoted sides, it's almost like the referees feel it's a bit, well, they need to toughen up. But yet when we're physical, we're too physical. So yeah, that was one of the ones for me. The other ones, yeah, Raul Jimenez. Look, what happened to him a few years back now was really bad. His head injury, the reason he had to wear, well, whatever they called it, basically a hat for a bit. Awful. And you wouldn't wish that on any player. But ever since then, whichever team he's played for, be it Fulham or Wolves, he's played on it. The referees are petrified of him getting hurt and it biting them. Because for me, I think there was 3 occasions in the end I counted where 50-50s occurred. He hasn't gained possession. We've moved forward. Twice we were on the attack, well over the halfway line and headed for goal. And Jimenez has been holding on to his head so the referee stopped play. The one occasion that Jimenez did win the tackle, as soon as they lost possession, he did the same thing. Oh, my head, oh, my back of my head, oh, and started acting about. It shouldn't happen. For me, he's playing on his injury from previous years. Any other player does that. Are they given the same treatment? Probably not. Yeah, it's what I'm. Look, the one thing Darren Inman did do right is on one occasion, as soon as Jimenez got the free kick or got the game stopped, he stood up, and the referee then said, "No, you're seeing medical people. You said you've got a head injury. You're getting seen to by medical people." The problem is, the punishment didn't fit the crime because on that occasion we were 3v2 on the attack. So actually, he's prevented a goal scoring opportunity realistically. But we could rant all night long about refereeing. I'm afraid to say it. We weren't good enough. But it is always going to be hard when you're playing against. Well, I said Fulham was going to be a tough game anyway. Craven Cottage is not a nice place to go. But when you're playing against a team and the officiating's going against you and the weather, like I'm not saying the rain's, we're not used to rain because at the end of the day, we're in the northeast of England. Of course we are. But I think all the factors just into one, that game was never going to be winnable. I don't care what people say about 5 at the back being the wrong setup. You could have gone 3 at the back and 2 strikers. It still wouldn't have worked because the decisions would have always gone against you.
I just want to touch on what you were saying about Jimenez's free kick that he won from us, which was very sloppy, as well. Is the fact being, you look later on, as Robin said, decisions all weekend were just awry all over the place. So if you look at, say, the Arsenal Spurs game, Declan Rice did the same exact thing, nothing given. Jumped up to win a header, headed it away. Referee didn't make the decision. And then, as Robin said, there's other decisions in our game that didn't go away. Mukiele got slapped in the face, went down. Referees like, just play on. Sorry, that you've just hit a player in the face. Surely VAR could have picked that. Correct me if I'm wrong. This is where VAR should have intervened. Went, wait, there's a player just being slapped or like hit in the face for violent conduct, but nothing was given. It just, to me, I'm agreeing with you massively there, Kev. the referee, it looked like the referee had an agenda against us from get-go. Didn't want to give anything to us whatsoever. Do you want to add anything else to that, or should we move on to now just the style of the game that we enthralled in?
For me, the other one bit to me, I mean, look, let's not talk about Darren England again until he officiates for us again. He
Mm.
also is a pretty poor referee when it comes to refereeing Newcastle games. So you have to
Yeah.
wonder if he's got a thing against the North clubs.
Mhm.
But I was talking to a lad from work who said, "Oh, you had Darren England at the weekend, didn't you?" I said, "Yeah." And his first response was, "Did you get any decisions?"
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh, did you watch our game?" He went, "No." He said, "But whenever we have him, he won't give us anything." So maybe it's a pattern of behaviour. Maybe he's a London boy and he'll babysit his London clubs. But yeah, awful decisions for me. You know, Wolf. I nearly called them wolves. I mean, they're as bad as that. Um, yeah, I saw a thing on social. A Fulham fan saying, "Oh, Sunderland, the worst team we've faced this season." I'd like to say the same about Fulham
Mm.
because actually, for me, they didn't produce much. They weren't very good in front of goal. One goal, from what shouldn't have even been a set piece.
Mhm.
And for me, it was just the constant disrupting of the game. Every time they lost possession, they found a way of getting a foul. And I
Yeah.
mean, did you feel that way, lads? I mean, or was it just me through my rose tinted glasses?
Mhm.
I'd kind of agree. I do think they were buying absolutely everything. Just done a little bit of research there while you're talking, Kevin. He's from Barnsley, apparently, um, and he's a Barnsley supporter,
Oh.
which is a bit strange, for him to be as poor as what he is. But if he was supporting Leeds, I could probably think, well, he's a bit bitter because Leeds, even though they were 24 points ahead of us, aren't doing as well.
Exactly. I just think it was just one of those games where I'll use Regis's comments. Regis even came out and said, pretty in his matter of words, I got it wrong, which once again speaks volumes about him as a coach to admit his wrongdoings and where he sees where went wrong. But what I do like is the togetherness of the lads. I think it was Trey. I think Jacques has even came out and went, "But dust this off as a bad result. We then move on. This is it. Like it happens in games. We need to show our grit and determination. We've got Bournemouth coming up on Saturday, which we'll be discussing later on soon in the week about it. But I think we can just chalk it off as bad day at the office. Get back, train hard, and then produce the goods back at home on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, what got me was the lack of fight. The lads didn't seem that bothered about it, and it's which is strange because this season we've been up for every single match. And yeah, it just seemed like they weren't really up for it. And yeah, I mean, the weather's poor, but both teams have got to play in that. But again, it came down to me. Yeah, I mean, I don't think you needed to go five at the back against Fulham.
Yeah,
I think we should have, done the 4-3-3 that we play. Um, I thought Regis was slow with the substitutions. I thought he should have made changes earlier in the game. I thought he left that too late. He should have gambled a bit earlier to me, I think, and maybe, like I say, change the shape on it because it just didn't work.
Mhm.
Um, I thought a few players which have been quite good recently were pretty anonymous.
Mhm.
With the exception of the start of the second half when LeFay had a decent attempt on, at the goal when he brought the ball down and that. I thought apart from that, he was just pretty invisible, except, maybe his, you know, long sleeves and tights under his shorts and that and all in black. I don't know if he, thought he was a ninja and trying to hide in the stands or something like that. But it was, I think Traore looked to be the only one that was really bothered about trying to go forward.
Mhm.
it just seemed that there was a real lack of things. And I think as well, I think what we touched on about with that possible deliberate yellow card scenario, I think both Xhaka and Siddiqui were a bit cautious and deliberately not going in for stuff because they don't want to get booked and miss games.
Yeah.
The problem is
I
they're
think,
going to end up in a position where they get
yeah.
frustrated, shall we say, and end up in a card scenario in one of the next two games. Realistically, you've kind of wasted your free hit. Bournemouth
Mhm.
for me would have been the one to take it because it's at home, and losing one of the two of them would have been better. If either of them or both of them now get carded against Bournemouth, we're knackered. Like, no way of dressing it up. You're going to lose them for Liverpool. You get one of them carded at Liverpool. You're getting one of them down in Man City. Worst case scenario, they get carded at Man City, miss the derby.
Yeah.
The only thing with that, though, Kev, I was thinking about this. If Siddiqui does get carded and would miss that match, I mean, he might have been going off for that AFCON then anyway. So he may be missing that match, anyway, for sort of, he might be not at the Newcastle game anyway. So I think just,
Mhm.
I don't know, I just don't want it to affect their games. And I know I said anyway about 15 times in that.
It's all good. No, it was just it was a strange one, and it was just very strange to see not to see effectively Xhaka and Siddiqui just commanding the midfield that they have done so far so well this season. It was just felt a bit bizarre. The funny thing for me was there's a lad on the socials that is currently doing the running football review ratings of Xhaka and is it Cullen from Burnley? And even though we got beat, Xhaka still was above Cullen again. So Xhaka must be doing something right in the game to still be above Cullen there. So it's nice to see that. And speaking of Xhaka, I do want to touch on it, that lovely. I'm sure you guys would have saw as well that lovely gesture with that young little mascot. Free, the poor kid was freezing, and Xhaka's like, "Do you want my jacket?" And the kid's just like, it's Granite Xhaka.
I mean, to be fair, I think that was obviously really good for him to do that, but
Mhm.
you'd expect that from any human being, to be
Yeah,
honest. I mean, but surely, I mean, with that little lad like that, you've got to put him in Under Armour, etc., and stuff like that to keep him warm.
yeah.
I know they want to go out in their kits and stuff like that, but don't put the lad in short sleeves and stuff. Dress him up like Enzo Lafay.
And to be honest, I'm trying to figure out what else we can talk about in that game. Just we've covered the rant, we've covered the goal, we've covered obviously Xhaka's lovely moment. I don't even know what else to cover on this game, to be fair, because
The only other thing
it,
really is the handbags after the game. Obviously, Regis has
yeah,
commented on how disappointed he is that they decided to have a little shoving session after the match, and he doesn't want to see that again. Which is quite funny when Robin says that none of the lads showed any fight in them. Yeah, they seem to want to spend it after the 95th minute.
yeah,
That was the only other thing I was going to mention was, isn't it funny how all their yellow cards happened in the 93rd minute when the referee
yeah.
clearly was trying to make it look like a fair game because their goalkeeper got carded for time wasting, which he'd been doing since the 20th minute. Jimenez got carded. Like, it was just ironic that their players all got carded when the
Within a
referee
short
probably
span of
knew it
time.
was going to have no impact.
Yeah.
But yeah, one of those, mate, where you just like say you write it off as a bad day. Um, and I just hope we absolutely pump them when they come to the Stadium of Light.
Yeah, exactly. So I think we should just pretty much wrap it up as a rather short pod. To be fair, I don't, unless Robin, have you got anything that we missed that you want to cover off?
Not really. I just think it's we just got to put it down as a bad day and move on. It's I think all three of us are a bit lost for words, to be honest, because it was just an inept performance, really, after what we've seen the rest of the season.
Yeah.
And the way that we've been playing, just to put in a performance like that, I suppose it's just a bit of a shock to us all. But look, if we're going to have a poor performance like that, better it be away from home at a place like Fulham. That's not really going to impact us too much, because I don't see us, in and around the same places as them come the end of the season. I think they'll obviously be a bit lower in the table. It was only a 1-0. It would have been nice to, keep it at a 0-0 and actually nick a draw out of that awful performance. Look, 1-0 away defeat in horrendous weather conditions. You just got to really shout out to the fans that made the trip.
Yeah.
I mean, to make that trip and be there singing and that, even though, according to one idiotic Fulham fan, we're the worst away fans they've seen at the Cottage this year.
Because we outsang them. They didn't like that.
Well, I mean, that's not really difficult to outsing Fulham.
I was going to say, Fulham's only got one chant, haven't they?
Yeah, and that's pretty awful.
But the come on Fulham one.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Probably what they spend most of their time doing.
No comment. But no, lads, I think we'll run it up there. Everyone that's listening, thank you very much. I know it's probably going to feel like it's only been a quick 10-minute pan, but we've lost for words. We've got no really other comments to give on this game apart from rubbish performance, rubbish referee, overall wet and damp on the return home. Kev, thank you very much for joining me.
Yeah, pleasure, mate. Look, it is what it is. We're still sitting comfortably in the table. So not all is lost. We're a third of the way through the season. It's not all doom and gloom.
Exactly, yeah. And Robin, thanks to you, buddy.
No, thanks, mate. Yeah, and like I say, let's pick ourselves up and put on a performance at home at the weekend.
Indeed, we shall. And we shall catch up with everybody to bring that preview for the Bournemouth game. Is that everybody? We'll see you on the next one.